it, dude. Oh, wow, eh? Should be interesting. Should be interesting.
It's completely different from Pink Floyd, that one.
I wasn't expecting that one, dude, but. Dudes and dudettes, what is going on? Jonny Middleton, I'm joined once again by my awesome hard rocking amigo,
Travis Ward.
and welcome to the second video of our new series, which is titled Classics from the Crypt Opening the Vault. A series, dude, where we're looking at several albums considered to be classic by fans and the like, and deciding whether that they should be revered, or how the critics feel that way about them, I suppose.
And there is no structure to this, as we have no idea what's coming next.
Which is certainly what makes...
Well, we do because we made a list, but we don't know from that list what's coming next.
I think it's certainly a very sort of unique sort of way
approach,
to...
yeah.
Because it's certainly good to be different, and yeah, as shown last week, everybody, when we pulled it out of the hat which album it was, we were both taken by surprise, weren't we? We were sort of,
a bit, yeah.
We both weren't expecting it, and we've been giving away like little hints, I suppose, on Facebook, but only mindly, I suppose, if you've been paying too much attention to our Spotify feed.
If people actually take into consideration our daily lives, maybe. I don't know.
It's kind of hard to tell in many ways.
Well, I mean, I've been listening to other stuff this week. I've been listening to Velvet Underground, The Smiths.
There's so much like things going on with our new series. It's going to be one hell of a ride. I can't tell how many albums we're the day doing. We've got. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be over a year.
Could be. I think I counted with we're doing one with like 64 albums left to go.
Okay, that's over a year.
Which is, and hopefully get this on week. But it all depends on our commitments. But hopefully we'll be able to deliver this on a weekly basis for everyone.
Definitely.
And yeah, before I start, everyone, I just want to mention my guitar teacher Mel Davis, who commented on our first video. And he basically said, well, basically I was going to shout him out in this video, and I was going to say something, but it's not right, because it's basically like, if you want good quality guitar tuition, he's the dude to go for. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's a great artist too, he paints, he loves his pictures on Facebook, and he sells them in several art galleries and stuff, and adding some more digression to this series in many ways, my friend.
And I don't have a guitar teacher. Yeah.
He taught himself because he's awesome. So I think I'd really struggle if I could teach myself to play guitar, dude, bro. I get lost because like certain different arrangements, but yeah, digressing, and I suppose. And yeah, the album pulled out of the hat, dudes and dudettes.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
It's not just a metaphor either. We actually pulled it out of the hat.
We sort of pulled like the rabbit out of the hat, so to speak, and I think it's time to reveal what this magical...
See, we've also been listening to Black Sabbath and the album Blizzard of Oz. Those are key clues. But also I was listening to the album we are saying, but on private session.
And I was also listening to several songs from different albums from the 90s. I can remember like saying, dude, how this album's like from the 1980s.
Yeah.
I was listening to several Aussie songs from the albums from the 1980s.
See, the albums that we've got from this list are over 4 decades. We've got the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. So we've got
lots of choice.
Indeed.
Lots of choice. And Aussie was around primarily. Aussie's been around ever since the 1970s, dude. So there's certainly lots of options which it could be. 69. Well, I think Sabbath actually formed in 1968 as Earth.
Yeah.
I believe so. I'm not 100%. There's obviously another band called Earth. There's a story how the band turned on like all like looking really rough, and was like with people executive suits for the band Earth because they thought like the other band Earth. But it's actually Sabbath. They didn't realise at the time there was another band called Earth, which led to the change.
And thus, the album we shall be reviewing in this episode is Diary of a Madman by Ozzy
Osbourne, who was the former lead singer of Black Sabbath. Because this album was released in 1981 on Jet Records, which was like a small British independent record in many ways, which was owned by Don Arden.
Yes, the brother of Sharon Osbourne.
Who was at the time known as Sharon Arden.
And he also produced the first album released in the same year called Blizzard of Oz, which is known for its tracks such as Crazy Train.
In comparison to the Pink Floyd, which was more based around the classic rock region, today we're looking at it now, it's really focused more like the hard rock, heavy metal persuasion.
Definitely early heavy metal aspects.
Because like the 80s was like dominated by like glam. You could sort of
Thrash.
And Thrash, Megadeth, and all that good stuff.
And Iron Maiden and Kiss as well.
New wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, just different types of metal.
It's the 80s is a very diverse time for sort of like hard rock music, I suppose.
It was also battling against dance music, which had just emerged.
Like it's a Depeche Mode and Human League. If I can remember that quote from that video once.
Yeah, that one quote.
And yeah, but Jet Records, guys, was basically like when Ozzy Osbourne had been fired from Black Sabbath in 1979 due to like excessive drug issues and general tardiness.
And alcohol abuse, which carried on.
Was prevalent amongst all members of Black Sabbath in the 1970s. We're all stoned.
Everyone was like that in the 1970s.
It was becoming sort of like an emulation of what happened in the 1960s in many ways, though. Just like lots of
abuse.
Lots of substance abuse going on. But like, you know, Black Sabbath's like towards the end of the like 1970s stuff were released albums like Technical Ecstasy, Never Say Die, which showcased the more experimental sides of the band's music.
They're not as popular as considered albums such as the self-titled Master of Reality Volume 4
and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
And Sabbath this is why it's interesting. I was listening to this as well in comparison to Ozzy stuff, and you listen to Ozzy stuff, there's no like remnants from such albums as those, and I guess it's more upbeat than previous Sabbath projects as well.
I'd say the atmosphere's still there, though, in certain songs in particular on the Sabbath.
That wasn't the end of Sabbath though. They revitalised because after Ozzy was kicked out, he was replaced with Rainbow frontman Ronnie James Dio.
There's also some references to Rainbow here, everyone, because basically, like when Ozzy had been fired from Black Sabbath in 1979, sort of like Don Arden like dispatched his sister Sharon Arden. To sort of like look after Ozzy's needs and his protection of his investment, because Don Arden had signed Ozzy Osbourne in 1980, and yeah, but like I was saying, like Jet Records, it was featured bands like ELO and Gary Moore, because Sharon Osbourne actually like, suggested Ozzy's form a supergroup with Gary Moore. Because you said that'd been a rather interesting combination.
Oh, definitely.
Didn't you, my friend?
Yeah, well, Gary Moore and ELO were massive at this time.
They were riding high.
They were probably bigger than Black Sabbath at that time, to be honest. I don't know if Black Sabbath was seen as big then as they are now.
I guess like fans of different music may have different opinions on this.
Yeah, they were just also really big British bands. So
I suppose like Ozzy, obviously with him being in Black Sabbath and everything, because like
he had that like status.
It was known as an icon.
Definitely.
Although it became more of an icon later on due to his TV series, but this we don't look to that era of Ozzy.
The Osbournes. Yeah, anything after 1999 we don't talk about.
It's sort of like a taboo amongst music fans, but...
Oh, he's not the only musician. Gene Simmons had a program, I think, after him.
Hulk Hogan did too, even though Hulk Hogan's not a musician.
To be fair, I did watch a lot of Hogan's Knows Best.
I think I watched a bit of it. I actually quite enjoyed it. This was like years ago, though.
Oh, definitely. So, but even though he didn't combine a project with Gary Moore, we've got Randy Rhoads.
He instead formed a supergroup with primarily members of Rainbow and Uriah Heep. Which was suggested by Don Arden, I think, once again, the owner of Jet Records.
Indeed.
Although Jet Records purchased ELO, Wizard and Roy Woods material from Warner Brothers, which is a major label, which may have led to the extended promotion for Ozzy's first album, Blizzard of Oz, which was released in 1980.
Do you care to tell the other members in Ozzy Osbourne's supergroup?
I will indeed, my friend, and it consisted of Lee Kerslake on drums, who previously played with Uriah Heep and did once more from after this period once he'd been fired from Ozzy. Because this album, Diary of a Madman, was actually recorded whilst the Blizzard of Oz tour was still going on. In the interim between the first and second legs of that tour.
Both Lee and the bassist had no money. Bob Daisley. They had no money, basically, and so...
They were complaining that they had no money to live on whilst...
Sharon Arden. Okay, we know where Sharon Osbourne now, so...
Sharon!
So to Sharon...
That's the only Osbourne's quote you'll get.
And her solution to this was to fire them. Great solution.
I guess it was sort of like spiteful on like Sharon's part, because like there's some very controversial like uncredited members of this album.
We're not very approving of Sharon Osbourne, I guess. She's a bit of a control freak.
Her acts on this are a bit strange. Like it all seems to be flying well until until like Don Arden, because previously like the band was managed by David Arden, guys, and he basically had like sort of things for Don Arden in like the office, and so. They recruited like Sharon Osbourne to like steal like management of the band during this period.
They were both busy as well, so even though the Blizzard of Oz, and they were called Blizzard of Oz then, this is now like Ozzy Osbourne's solo project seen as, but they were too busy.
I believe that one of the producers also wanted to bang Ozzy called it Son of Sabbath, but he obviously hated that name.
That wouldn't have been a good choice at all.
It's because like the Blizzard of Oz like a name that Ozzy like approved, but you know when they released their first album, the Blizzard of Oz, it was like the record label just typed it Ozzy Osbourne was like his solo
See,
career.
it's not just Ozzy. Ozzy Osbourne is always focused around him now, but it's always been a super group of musicians. Like Randy Rhoads previously mentioned, he was from Quiet Riot.
From up until 1979, and I believe they were a big player in the glam metal scene in the 1980s as well.
I've never really paid attention to them.
There's also, like I was saying, everybody, like uncredited members, sort of like, you know, basically like, I was saying, like, this Rudy Sarso and Tommy Aldridge actually credited as playing bass and drums on this album, but they didn't actually feature until the live album Speak the Devil in 1982.
Yeah. Aldridge is always giving credit to Lee. So.
He's always saying, like, you know, that's definitely Lee Kerslake's drumming on that album.
And which is good, yeah.
It's very fair, because, you know, if Kerslake playing on the album, they should be rightfully credited.
Yeah. Which also leads to the further issue of 2002, where there was a lawsuit as bass and drums had been re-recorded. Because previously there'd been a lawsuit where Kerslake and Daisley had sued Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne.
Of their uncreditation on their works on this album.
And they won. So, but then
right,
following that...
like Claire Torrey.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Looking references back to the first review of the series, everybody.
But, and so, because of this, we don't know who said what. Sharon said at the time that it was Ozzy's decision, and in his biography from like 2009, Ozzy said it was Sharon's decision, and he had no say in any of this. But the bass and drum parts were re-recorded by Robert Trujillo, who is now known as the bassist in Metallica, and then Mike Bowden
of Faith No More fame,
who's still Faith No More today.
And Travito was actually telling me here, like, the version he heard on Spotify was actually like the 2002 version.
And the physical copy that John here is the... It says it's a republished version from 2011, but it's the 1981 version due to their not being...
It contains because like the 2002 edition got everybody
contains got a bonus track
called I Don't Know Live,
which is on the first album, Blizzard of Oz. Not live, it's a track.
I think it's how like in like subtle ways do the differences with Robert Trujillo and Mike Bowden, but they're very, very faint. This is definitely the album which features Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake.
Oh yeah, because we listened to some of the tracks off that before and it was very similar.
I think so. Yeah.
It's just the recording sounds a bit better as well.
Probably like 2002 as opposed to like 1981. And there's actually some like controversy as well, like the keyboardist on this album. Everybody as well. Because Don Airey is credited, but he didn't actually play keys because he was busy touring with Rainbow at the time. So there's like a dude called Johnny Cook who worked with Bob Daisley project named Mungo Jerry in the 1970s, who's Bob Daisley being a bass player.
That's what I got Mungo Jerry from. Yeah.
Reminds me a little bit of Ben and Jerry's. Mungo Jerry's.
It's a new
ice cream. Ben and Jerry's special ice cream, Mungo Jerry's. And Randy Rhoads, as we were saying, dude, who played guitar in Quiet Riot until 1979.
And with this album, we see a burst of flavour and talent. Like, you've got some good guitar parts. No, don't get me wrong, I mean, you listen to the solo in Crazy Train, it's amazing. But here, he had a lot more diversity, even though he believes that there was a loss of licks because they were rushed. Because they were on tour at the time, they wanted to get this album out.
That is definitely true, my friend.
I mean, you listen to his album, and the guitar work is amazing. I mean, this is the last album before his fatal plane crash in 1982 while on tour.
Which is very, very tragic to say the least. It happened like a few months before Speak the Devil live album was released, and probably preparation for that album after this.
He's on the album, isn't he? The Speak the Devil live album, is he?
I don't think it was Brad Gillis took over on guitar.
Okay, was he for that? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure if he played guitar on Back of the Moon the album after this, released in 1983, but...
also a very notable title, but will not be covered in this series, I must apologise.
This, you were saying, dude, like, you mentioned a lot of Randy Rhoads, like, a lot of, praise on this album director's towards his playing, like I was saying, becoming much more of a proficient guitar player. It was praised by Steve Huey of All Music and the BBC, hailed Diary of a Madman as a classic rock record everywhere. Because you were saying, basically, how like Randy Rhoads never owned like a rock record.
He never owned a rock record, and he has a lot of classical and jazz influence. And Ozzy Osbourne said...
The BBC got something right for once.
Well, ooh.
Controversial.
I'm a journalist, how dare you.
I'm sorry.
But,
I should apologise to the BBC.
But Ozzy said, I think this is due to the success of Blizzard, but because Randy was obsessed with like learning music theory and stuff. He went out and bought a very expensive classical guitar, and before his death,
to John Frusciante when mentioned covered Red Hot Chili Peppers, dude. How he like learned it to the book.
Yeah, oh, definitely John Frusciante was no one had seen anything like that before. But with Randy Rhoads, he apparently it's 4 days before his death. He'd been up 4 days, 4 nights, along with touring, but he'd also been learning all the theory on his classical guitar because he wanted to get a degree in music. And so he wasn't just, I'm in a rock band, there you go. So,
It's good to want to like, explore those further boundaries.
Zach Wilde still does that. So Zach Wilde, also a guitarist in early 21st century.
Black Label Society as well as, Ozzy do.
And his whatever solo stuff he does. But he also, I see a picture of him, like, after playing a gig, he's, like, practicing theory books and stuff like that. So.
Ozzy certainly picked out some very interesting guitar players in the course of his career, because he actually chose Randy Rhoads to do, like, it was, like, drunk one night, and what a selection. What a selection it would be, and tonally between the differences between Sabbath and Ozzy, like Randy Rhoads has a hell of a different tone than Tony Iommi did.
And he also picked Randy Rhoads,
in my opinion,
in a period where Eddie Van Halen was dominating the guitar scene in Van Halen. But
someone called I have to J.D. Considine of Rolling Stone magazine called Randy Rhoads a poor man's Eddie Van Halen. You saying that's all because of hype, because Eddie Van Halen was riding high at the time.
I just think that Randy Rhoads was very individual and unique and brought something different to the music scene.
I guess that's the same like most all guitar players, like they all bring something different, like they should all be viewed separately, I suppose.
And with this album, you get a more eerie mood than Blizzard of Oz.
There's certainly a lot more mysticism. I guess that's just like carried over from Black Sabbath.
Yes, with the artwork as well, and this castle and just...
Which we'll get to later on.
And with this, it gives me like this smoke feeling as well, like this mist.
Deep Purple. No, I'm joking. Because like Sabbath recorded their 1973 album, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, everybody, in a castle. Sorry.
Black Sabbath?
Yeah, Black Sabbath. They recorded their
Sunday, Sabbath, whatever, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Was recorded in 1973 in a castle to sort of stimulate Tony Iommi's writer's block.
Mm.
And
oh, I know
what
those.
It's because Ozzy's vocals on this guys, I feel a lot of similar to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, a lot of more heightened, especially on a song called Little Dolls, which we'll get into.
Oh, and this album also raises more questions due to the unforeseen death of Rhoads, of like, what could he have done next, just because of how amazing some of these songs are and the guitar work.
It's a question, unfortunately, which I guess we'll never know.
It's because you get the... because people have said that this album was more riffs with lyrics plastered over the top of it because of how amazing the guitar is.
That's what I was saying as well, dude, because with Sabbath songs just like Iron Man, like Ozzy would like sing across like the guitar lines, but on this, like you get guitar lines from Rhoads, you get Ozzy singing different melody lines.
Each role is very individual.
And it certainly, makes a change like Ozzy's material from Sabbath to his solo.
To say this was rushed into existence as well.
To say that they recorded this album whilst on tour with Blizzard of Oz in like the space of a month, just a month before Kerslake and Daisley both fired from the band. Certainly, I wonder how long like the band had this material written for this album, because what if it like a lot of songs like jamming on tour with like Blizzard of Oz or something, just like after the recording of Blizzard of Oz, like material together.
I think they got it together. I mean, it could have been like just they might have had some stuff left over from Blizzard of Oz, but I don't know. It's just like
so.
Curse. What is it?
Lee
Kerslake. I mean, he wrote quite a few songs. I mean, his idea is that he put vocals on the demo, and there was also Bob Daisley and also Randy Rhoads. Were all working together in the studio. See, Ozzy, even though it's his name, he didn't do as much.
It was probably stoned out most of the time on drugs or
drinking. Rooms, yeah.
But it's like like in the demos of these songs, everybody like Kerslake, Daisley, and Rhoads were like Kerslake would like play like rhythms on it was like singly vocals and somebody like play on a piano, and they all like jam together.
Mm. Oh yeah, to get the Bob Daisley and Randy Rhoads. They them working together. Do. Yeah. And
Lee Kerslake and Bob Daisley get the huge songwriting credits on the songs. Actually, but two of these songs of this album, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll and Believe, are actually not written by Lee Kerslake. They're just Osborne, Rhoads, and Daisley.
Oh, okay. Kerslake says he wrote Diary of a Madman, apparently. Flying
It certainly contributes to a lot to the album's songwriting.
The cover of Diary of a Madman, Bob Daisley says that it helps give the impression of Ozzy as the madman of like music.
It was It's certainly like it's like the godfather of hair metal, Ozzy Osbourne with the antics.
And also to note that
it just started at the end of Sabbath, and so it's really started to be a bit more of an extreme personality.
Even though the drums and stuff were replaced in 2002, there was a 30th anniversary edition released of Blues of Us and Diary of a Madman, and that was restored to the original basis.
On the original parts, because we were saying how I was saying everybody Robert Trujillo, Metallica, and Mike Borden sort of re-recorded the Kerslake and Daisley's parts for Diary of a Madman in 2002. Obviously, you were saying they were sort of 2011 30th anniversary edition of the album, and this album was recorded, you would say, as Ridge Farm Studios, which is one of the very first residential studios in UK, located in Surrey. Which I believe Pearl Jam recorded there too.
Really?
Indeed. And this album was produced by Max Norman, Ozzy Osbourne, and Randy Rhoads. So it was kind of self-produced the way also did, but it wasn't because it's got Max Norman in the producer.
Yeah, I mean, it had a lot of band effort put into it.
There's certainly a very unified band effort on this album. Anyway, and I was just saying that this was much more heavy persuasion than Pink Floyd considered heavy metal and hard rock. And Rose's guitar tone certainly got influences of glam in it in some instances.
Just some of the guitar work on it. I mean, you'll take like a classic rock song, you've got a simple solo, but then you've got a lot of diversity in these songs. You'll start off with a normal solo, and then Randy Rhoads will just like burst out with something crazy, like Crazy Train song.
I would wholeheartedly agree with because even though Rhoads' tonality is similar, there's so much different varying styles.
Yeah, also the styles vary as the album progresses. Because I feel like the first 4 tracks of the first half of the album is more, I'd say, classic rock. And then as it progresses to the later half of the album, it becomes more consistent metal. Because
although there are a few balancing the song, but I agree on the first half there are a lot more hard rocking tracks.
It's more mainstream as well in the first couple of tracks.
There's certainly a lot more accessible. Much more accessible edge. Which is Flying High Again and Believer.
And the solos also changed the further the album gets. They're not as wild or bizarre.
Yeah, you were saying how Randy Rhoads could really utilise very incredibly sort of very rocking solos. He used to pick slides and harmonics that I got down.
Oh yeah, and some arpeggios and probably pronounced that wrong. And just there was a lot of dubbing of guitars as well. I mean, like we said last week,
several multi-layered guitar parts. Also multi-layered vocal tracks.
Yeah,
rock and roll too.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. But like I said last week, David Gilmour was using not being seen before, this multi-layering of his own vocals. But then you've got this 3 guitars on top of each other, like in the solo for Flying High Again, stuff like that. And there's also, just dubbing of guitars, of different types of guitars and stuff like that.
I think a lot of once Pink Floyd start utilising multi-layer things, a lot of bands maybe.
To say this was a rushed album, it doesn't sound it.
I guess what Randy Rhoads considers to be average considers to be great by your average Joes. And the album opens with the song Over the Mountain, Due to Death, which is track 1. It starts some very enigmatic drumming from Lee Kerslake, would you say, my friend?
Oh yeah, and then it kicks off a very classic rock riff.
I wholeheartedly agree. From Randy Rhoads, it's a very conventional, traditional hard rock heavy metal style riff.
High wailing from Ozzy Osbourne. I guess you can call it wailing.
I'd say so. It's very rocking.
It's one of the tracks that focuses on a higher use of his vocals.
I certainly agree with that. It's certainly a very very fast and paced sound to up the album.
In comparison to more melodic, anthemic songs featured later on in the album.
I would agree, but this song changes, doesn't it? It slows down when it sings Don't Need No Astrology. It's sort of it becomes.
Because you'll start off with these chuggy guitars, this metal. Even though I said this is more classic
introduce the album in a very rocking sort of manner.
Yeah, and then it goes into more your melodic. Is there some guitar picking? But then Ozzy's vocals will change.
Yeah.
Some Ozzy's vocals will change to a more deeper. I don't know what to call it. It's not deeper than it's higher, but the style he does it in. It's sort of
talks more when it's singing Don't Need No Astrology.
Brent from Mastodon, that sort of style of singing.
You were telling me about so I started recording, weren't you?
Yeah, just the way he sings, sort of stuff. But yeah, but that doesn't stop there because it follows well, no, this one doesn't follow the same pattern, is it? But it goes back into that chuggy riff afterwards.
I think the song has a very great structure, and there's the opening riff is that chugger is repeated, as soon as once that melodic part.
When it goes back into the synth is added as well.
to sort of create the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because, you know, throughout this album, everybody, like, you know, the synths really do, you know, add like an extra, you know, create like the ambience.
Indeed.
A very dark
Suits
mood.
the album artwork as well.
But it's a Diary of a Madman, and Over the Mountain is definitely a great way to open the album. It's like a nice, hard rocking.
And it also shows some brilliant construction from Randy Rhoads of one of his crazy solos on the album.
Actually, I said there was a solo in this song, dude.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your like tapping, you've got your like experimental scales going on.
It's very glam metal. Probably plays I was in Quiet Riot.
Maybe with his dotted flying V guitar as well.
Maybe so. I've never really seen many pictures of Randy Rhoads' guitar.
He recorded the album with 2 guitars. I think his tradition at Alnico White.
I think there's a picture in here of himself. I'll take note of it.
His dotted flying V, I think that's what he used on this album.
That is pretty awesome. So I know Ozzy's guitar players do have a lot of uses for flying V's.
Whammy and stuff from the songs.
And in this song, do so I don't think there's a real conventional chorus, is there? Because like, Ozzy like they'll say the line Over the Mountain like in the verses.
Oh, yeah.
You get those like chugging riffs.
It goes well with like just like a travelling sort of song, like fast paced, and his vocals help carry it.
It gets you rocking. It's very guitar and drum heavy.
And then after the solo, then you get back to the chuggy guitars again, added synth carries on, and then
it sort of ends with like abruptly. Do's and dudettes, which is much more accessible. Basically, I'd say it's more like controlled chaos than Over the Mountain. It's more like basically like Rhoads will like play a riff and like you hear those curse like Ozzy's vocals coming in, like, and there's also like use of like echoes on Ozzy's vocals too. So this is like saying the flying high again.
There's a lot of sustain, I guess, on his vocals as well.
Yeah, because I know there's actually like the song, the album do this, which basically like charted the highest out of.
It's definitely more accessible. It's more mainstream, I guess.
It's this melodic, it's more accessible, and this song has much more simple structure than Over the Mountain.
Over the Mountain was also the second single from the album.
That's true. That's true. Cause I don't think like the solo in this song is crazy where it's on Over the Mountain. It's more.
Well, it's a lot more crazy than what's seen later on in the album. This song's very catchy as well.
It fits like the whole pop sensibility.
It carries on with that classic rock like guitar playing, which you see in Over the Mountain.
This was a song like guys, everybody that I sort of recognise, you know, most from this album because as we're saying, like, you know, a lot of the songs on this album like you don't really recognise much say what you do on Blizzard because Blizzard obviously has Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. As you look at the track listing to list, like you don't see as many standout songs as general music fans.
Definitely. I mean, this is one probably which people. Well, it depends how much of a fan you are of Ozzy Osbourne. If you just like listen,
to check out his albums.
Yeah, if you listen to his greatest hits, this one will stand out probably the most from this album. But if you're actually a devoted Ozzy fan, probably pick a lot more different songs.
I probably would do. It all depends on how much material is to and how much you enjoy. Obviously, Flying High Again charted well because it is back to back. The preceding album as well as also the singles Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. And
there's less consistent vocal work in this song as which we're seeing in Over the Mountain. Ozzy's like singer's got more breaks in it. It's
like whereas mentioned like talking bits in Over the Mountain it says and you don't need astrology. That's more like I was thinking that was based about like talking. That's like more singing comparison. It says like and no, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess you can see on my see it's not as much singing.
Yeah, it's more. It's like
it's not as bad as
a conventional chorus or something.
Yeah,
it's more like say like
it's helps to be more memorable as well.
I mean, it's similar to Over the Mountain tonally, but it's much more different structure. The conventional chorus is quite accessible about it.
The solo on this one, which you've already mentioned, but it's more like going up and down the scale sort of stuff, bits of tapping and stuff like that.
You see Travito here. He brings all like guitar knowledge, like arpeggios and experimental scales and all this crazy cool guitar.
On the outro, you've got like. I think it's a phase, so I'm probably going to be wrong. It's like the rise, like a plane taking off sound.
I remember this. It's like the Flying High Again, and but thematically,
songs about.
Thematically, do this. The songs about drugs, like Flying High Again, like
very suitable to Ozzy at the time, I guess.
I feel we didn't because like unlike Dark Side of the Moon, everybody like this album's themes are like different from like vary from like each song.
However, Dark Side of the Moon can easily be associated with drugs, and it's a song you should listen to when under the influence.
Although which song from Dark Side of the Moon?
I mean, the album, the whole thing.
Yeah, it could make for an experience. Apparently, if you utilise illicit substances during certain hours, it can sort of enhance the experience. I don't know how true it is. I've never done it, and I probably will do this. It's still like my opinion. But Flying High Again, because that's a version. I don't think they mentioned lyrical themes of the Mounds do. It's about like astral projection, which basically like we get into like a state of mind in your body, like you go to sleep, like there's a way of like your soul can like exit your body, like walk around and like go places.
Also, seen if
it takes incredibly hard to master.
What's the film? Oh god, the film from 2011, which is about astral projection.
2012.
No.
That's about the end of the world. That's astral projection.
No, the one where you leave the body and it's that kid on the front cover and they made Insidious. That film's about astral projection.
The only film that genuinely scared me.
I thought it was
terrifying.
Funny. I'm just saying, like people, if you don't know what astral projection, that sort of idea of the boy left his body and stuff and was trapped in that hell place because he left his body.
It was. I think I'd throw my popcorn over my head at this point, dude.
They made a sequel, but I don't think it did as well.
I'm not watching it. And Flying High Again. It's like it's actually like the first time I heard from this release, everybody. But it's actually not by Ozzy Osbourne. Like, I heard it like a Kerrang, like tribute album to something, and I'll something along those lines. I think it's like the best of Kerrang. It could have been the Ozzy version. But it's just something like I probably heard too much, and when I've heard the other songs of the album, I tend to prefer other tracks.
Well, I guess
Flying High Again.
More accessible. He's okay.
But they're out. But then you get like, because as I was saying, tonally, everybody like Randy Rose's styles like very similar. It has like a whole different range of styles going on throughout this release in terms of the sort of music that he's playing on the guitar.
It's a lot different to as McCreary mentioned as was.
People who see the rock music as devil's music.
It's definitely one of those fans who are really into rock music sort of songs. It's like
something we can relate to. It really has like another string to like Randy Rose's bow, because it actually begins with like a very balladist
anthemic intro, suitable for the 80s.
It adds to the general diversity of the album.
It's a tonality which is seen later on in more anthemic songs as well, like Believe and Diary of a Madman.
Diary of a Madman especially, the song. And so you can't go rock and roll but the ballad like guitars like remain correct. You get like it goes back to like the heavy. Heaviness.
You'll start off with like. Especially seen later on as well, you start off with like this emotional acoustic sort of vibe, and it kicks into this rock and roll, which is very suitable for the song. Cause I mean, if that song didn't kick in,
I like it. I like what happens like pre-chorus, dude, where Oz sings like, and they don't even know what they talk about. Like with Randy Rose's like guitar becoming more like higher in nature, and they get like that chorus where it says like "Leave me alone," whatever it is.
It's similar to what we were saying about like the murderings and blaming metal. It's like that people don't understand the genre and try to like disrespect it.
It's basically like Ozzy sort of like saying
I got like
basically rock will never die.
Yeah, just one random thing is, Ozzy's vocals. I'm just going on about vocals throughout this album. Like these are a lot deeper as well than seen before.
Yeah, because there's actually like a bit in this song where it's like harmonised to himself, just like reinforcing like the idea what Pink Floyd did in many ways. It's much more deeper in it, dude. You're saying that harmonised.
Yeah, I got like a Meatloaf vibe from this song, and it's just because it's anthemic, and a lot of Meatloaf songs are anthems.
I get that from Tonight, but we'll get on to Tonight and my feelings towards it.
I said Survivor, I guess, because they have like a lot of ballads.
Yeah,
Whitesnake as well, sort of stuff, because they're all from this era.
I'd say that Whitesnake are actually like the only band that could like be linked to glam I actually enjoy these days. I don't really like glam much.
I mean, they've got the hair and stuff. I've never really linked them to glam.
Ozzy's got a hair here, dude. Ozzy's always had that hair
when he was in Black Sabbath.
Oh, there was something I read how like Ozzy once like he shaved his head over like a wig on stage during the 80s.
Probably during his alcohol abuse or something.
I wonder if that was like
Britney Spears sort of thing.
I wonder if he did that when he bit that head off that bat. Although Ozzy didn't actually realise that was an actual bat.
No.
He thought it was just like a fake toy thing that's been thrown for the crowd, but it's actually a real bat.
When was that? Was that in the 80s?
It could have been, dude. Yeah, it's highly infamous among Aussies. Ozzy has a lot of things of infamous nature.
This is why people don't like him. Like, they give this vibe around him. They actually do
stuff. Some great music though, with both Sabbath and himself. And,
I'm not saying that he's a bad person. It's just that people take something like that and be like, oh, no, he hates animals.
I think he's a little bit slow, bless him. In terms of probably
definitely these days.
But it can still play with a very awesome rock band called Sabbath when he rejoined. Obviously, this album came after he'd just been fired from Sabbath, and a lot of he was in a bit of a dark time, I suppose. That's why Sharon came on, sort of like trying to help him out.
Yeah, and then with this song carrying on, the solo I'd say wouldn't be as impressive as what was seen in Flying High Again. I don't think it's as bizarre either.
Maybe not, dude. It sort of feels like the more slower sort of like ballady vibe of the song, I suppose. You know, this is actually like the last album to feature both Lee Kerslake and Bob Daisley, who would eventually be fired from the band after the... This album was called like a month before the Second Leg of Blues the Boss tour began.
Yeah.
Before they both fired, because it was led to Sharon and everything. And they may have already mentioned that, by the way.
I mentioned it. And then, like, after Soul, it mellows out, but then it kicks back into the rock heavy riff. And
it's probably like the most diverse song out of the opening 3 tracks on the album, Do's and Dudettes, so You Can't Kill Rock and Roll.
I think this is the song which has the fading of the solo.
I think so too.
Like, goes with the bending.
I was getting annoyed how like Flying High again and like You Can't Kill Rock and Roll like both fade out like right along, thinking, why just press the stop button?
Oh yeah, it's like 30 seconds or something of fading out.
Something. It's different over the mountain. It ended like abruptly, and then you get Flying High again, and You Can't Kill Rock and Roll.
More metal than the previous.
Because how he saying it like in the 80s, like you had like a lot of songs of this nature, like big anthemic ballad that like really kicked in. Although this is like 1981, so maybe like the roots lie with like songs from this like era and used later on in the period by very other artists. Probably like the glam scene bands like Poison and Twisted Sister and Motley Crue. Not really.
Okay.
But You Can't Kill Rock and Roll is probably like one of my most favourite songs from this album. Everybody knows. I love that that very balladic nature guitar playing from Randy Rhoads as well as the heaviness throughout. Which returns to the more accessible edge of Flying High. It contains a very catchy sort of riff from Randy Rhoads.
Starts off with some bass as well.
It does, like, because this is actually like the first song on the album.
Like haunting guitars.
Well, and as well as keys on the album, to do about. We'll get to another song that contains lots of haunting guitars.
With the riff as well, I thought I got like a Metallica sort of vibe. I'm saying obviously this is before Metallica, but like
It's probably why I enjoy the song. Probably like Blues play my most favourite song for this album, everybody, because it's very melodic. It's very sort of nice.
Guitars as well at the beginning with that synth peering.
It does, dude. And but as I say, like Randy Rhoads' guitar does sound, even though it's sort of similar in nature, how it turns sound like since Logan Mouse, like Randy Rhoads' guitar does sound a bit different.
And here we've got some more harmonising of Ozzy's vocals with some like philosophical wording from him.
It's very upbeat themes about how like believing in yourself, like doing something you previously thought was impossible. It's like these his vocals are like more standard. It's not like much like wailing or
and then when it goes into like the main guitar, I say it's more like one of those when you're in an audience, it'd be like a head nodding, like moving the arm in motion with the music.
Me too. I'll just headbang. Although I've heard like Rock Constant Yates, like a lot of people had to like sit down and enjoy the music without being too raucous.
Oh, you do. Well, yeah.
I know people with iPhones recording it, like, whoa, I'm so cool.
No, I'm not a fan of that sort of stuff.
I prefer to take it all in and keep it in like the mental state of mind.
Yeah.
Believer, it's like as I was saying, everybody, it's like probably my most favourite song from the album. It's like cool, like on Over the Mountain, like get Lee Kerslake really stand out at the beginning, and this song you get Bob Daisley really stand out at the beginning. It's like a good swan song for these guys, seeing as they were fired, as I mentioned, after the recording of this release.
Like we were saying with the swan song, this is more Lee Kerslake.
Yeah, because this song actually...
His name is escaping me.
I mean, I've only revised it for like a week or two.
It's just I can't pronounce it. I know it.
Kerslake.
Kerslake. Oh, saying it right then. So Lee Kerslake. This is more of his song because it starts off with the drum beats, and I mean,
it's similar to Over the Mountain.
Brilliant drums from him on this.
Did I say it's actually like prolonged, like this drum rhythm at the start?
It is a bit prolonged, I guess.
It's close to Over the Mountain.
And when I first heard it, I didn't think it was as long, but when we sat down and listened to it earlier, I was like,
because I couldn't remember it sounding new. Because basically, I was writing up my notes for this album, everybody, like yesterday. I was tired because I've been watching like Resident Evil playthroughs on YouTube late tonight. Just like, let's throw that one in there.
Suitable time to watch it.
I actually watched like the end of the first one, like right at mid-afternoon yesterday. I was so into it, I just couldn't get enough of it. I'm glad I finally watched it. Also means I could focus my attention on other things now.
I need to play it again on PS1.
It's a very classic game, Resident Evil 1 for the PS1 boosters. The graphics don't stand in comparison today, but...
I mean, the graphics don't make the game. The game itself is awesome.
The whole story and the mansion and
look
the
at Resident Evil today, they've got great graphics, but everyone thinks the game's a shit, so...
Yeah, like the whole low-key vibe really added to like actually general atmosphere. Speaking of
atmosphere... Resident Evil 4.
Speaking of atmosphere, dude, a lot of atmosphere with
this
release.
Yeah.
And yeah, Little Dolls, like you get a lot of Ozzy's more heightened style vocals in this song, don't you?
Indeed, I was just going to say that.
Lots of diversity of Randy Rose's guitar, Ozzy's vocals.
More.
It's like basically Curse, there's not much general diversity. Some Rhodes and Osborne are really shining high.
This is quite bass heavy in this song. It's more noticeable, and guitars are more simple in this song.
It's definitely accessible and sort of similar to Believer and Flying High Again.
I say it's simple. It's Randy Rhodes, so it's simple for him.
Yeah, like I was saying, everybody, like what Randy Rhodes does.
It's got that marching sort of sound to it. That was the thing.
That's not like the drum beat.
Yeah.
I remember hearing. I remember this now. I thought it reminded me of the song "Personal Jesus," the cover that Mazza did of Depeche Mode, like those drums. It's going. It's similar to that to the intro. I think that's in like the middle section of that song. And so Little Dolls actually like like Ozzy's heightened vocal. I want to say, would you say the song was as good as Believer, dude? I don't know.
I don't like Little Dolls.
You prefer the more
Little
Dolls
Dolls and Believer are my least favourite tracks on the album, to be biased to the album itself. But I don't know, like the soloing gets a lot more simpler as well when you get to Little Dolls. It's not as wild, but I mean it fits well with the song.
I guess even Randy needs a break at times.
Well, that might have been the rushing sort of aspect built into it.
Yeah, because you can't compose like a crazy wild solo in a very short space.
Not all the time.
Randy Rhodes could.
The missing licks.
The thing was, guys, was how I was saying, like, there's so much like Joan diversity despite Randy Rhodes' guitars are very similar. Like, you get Believer and the Little Dolls, like they do sound very similar.
The solo helps fit the groove of the song, and then
not with the flow of the album.
Yeah, it's not over the top this song as previously heard throughout the album.
Because I was thinking, dude, like if each song this album is so different, like the flow may be affected, but Believer and Little Dolls sort of like keep the album together.
It's a lot slower as well.
It's certainly
like crazy trains, all like.
I agree. It's certainly much more an accessible nature. This is the one song on the album I just can't stand.
I like it. It's got that same like anthemic feel as "You Can't Kill Rock and Roll" when it starts.
It's just too like it has a piano in it. That's a very
deeper vocals as well.
Yeah. You get Daisley's bass. Really, like it begins with a very prominent bass riff from Lee Kersley. That's like a little bit of a more romanticism vibe. I guess you were saying like you think a song with romanticism.
I think it's more enjoyable than the previous two, but it's also like Little Dolls less over the top as the beginning of the album.
I just think it's this. Would you say Tonight is definitely like the softest song in terms of musically,
especially with the vocal work. Oh, and sonically, I guess, and vocal work.
It's more singing.
His singing's a lot softer as well. When he's like stretching out the title of the song. It's just
I'm just not really a fan of it, I'm afraid, and
I don't know. Oh no.
Look, because Little Dolls is based about like voodoo, wasn't it, dude?
Oh, it's about voodoo and lunacy and stuff like that.
This is about like romanticism. No, sorry, it's about living and surviving on the streets. But I get that whole like love vibe, like that bass riff and the whole. I guess like the more mellow touch like adds like the song.
I think it's more emotional.
Yes. I'd say that's even better word to use, actually. Emotional.
It's nicely constructed.
It's not emo, though. Please.
Emo is derived from emotional, though.
But emo's like depressing themes of upbeat music.
Well, but if emo's derived from emotional, aren't we all emos because we're not robots because we have emotions?
Well,
I once wrote about this.
We're maybe about emo musically, but certainly not aesthetically.
I once wrote about this.
You'll have to
you
show
can check it out on my Google Plus.
I'm definitely intrigued now, dude.
It's just me.
You have lit my fire.
I was bashing stereotypes, not being like stereotypical, but like saying people should stop with stereotypes, sort of thing.
I definitely agree. It's not good to stereotype people into like different genres based on how they look.
And then this song ends with like an epic whammy guitarish outro. I
sort of didn't pay much attention to the song on purpose to because I don't like it. Like from the first two listens, I was thinking, this is not for me.
Okay.
But if you like it, it's all good, my brother. It's great. I've got like a good diversity of opinions going on here.
Nothing's too similar in this.
It's spelled S-A.T.O.
I'll split up because it's the name of Sharon Osbourne. Well, not at the time.
Sharon Arden Thelma Osbourne, right, stands for. Although there was a rumour of this song actually stood for Sailing Across the Ocean.
It's more like metal rock sort of song.
Iron Maiden.
I got that.
There's a lot of guitar tone.
The pace is definitely picked up from the previous song.
But the thing is, like, this was 1981 and Paul Di'Anno was still in Iron Maiden, so actually, when Bruce Dickinson came in, that really sound became more prevalent there in 1982, the number of the beast.
I've never really listened to the early Iron Maiden stuff. I've heard Flying.
I've heard the first
what's
album.
it called? Is it Flying High? Running Free.
Running Free.
I've heard that song live.
That's in the first album, dude.
Yeah, Borussia Dickinson sang it. So.
I agree. I mean, I've heard the Iron Maiden album first. Not really paying attention to Killers though.
I've got to
because Iron Maiden has Phantom of the Opera in Transylvania on it. Sanctuary too. But yeah, like it's funny because like I maybe Iron Maiden took influence from it. Does have very like, sort of like epic vibe on guitar.
It's more catchy.
It's certainly a guitar song. You certainly associate with Iron Maiden these days. Although in S.A.T.O is probably something very unique.
I think the solo as well. Must say again, less crazy, but fits the song, and it's got more of a haunted theme.
The thing is, dude, like this album, it's like all like good parts are like together. So I don't really remember the solo as much. But I can remember the song as being like not one of the strongest in comparison to tracks. Just like you can't kill rock and roll.
Later on in the song, it gives me that haunted feeling, like like a smoky, misty castle.
We'll get into this. So we'll get into the final track. But yeah, S.A.T.O, it's like it's not one of the strongest on the album, but it's still another one of those hard rocking tracks. Don't say, dude.
Oh yeah.
Primarily driven by Randy Rhoads, because you can see why a lot of like credit to this album, because this album has been revered amongst like fans and critics. Obviously, it didn't feature like the classic album series, but it was something that's been revered. Because we said we'd have like our own touchless series, by ways as well.
Definitely. Because most people would definitely count Blizzard of Oz as a classic album.
They would.
A lot of people,
Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley.
A lot of people count Bark in the Moon, especially for the track on the album. But we thought, no, this one's got some notable stuff on it, and
we thought, well, basically random. Like we were kind of like forced to cover this album. Although we sort of grew the albums into account which ones we're going to do. So basically, we took notes of this album, like you said, we thought we'd cover it.
Yeah.
And like it's not as S.A.T.O isn't as Sharon Hard and Calvin Osborne isn't as it's as strong as like You Can't Kill Rock and Roll Believer, but it's it's just another one of those rocking tracks like. Everyone, which sort of ends the album like a massive epic song. I know my cousin here is a huge fan of this track.
My favourite track on the album. It's just brilliant guitar work from Randy Rhoads. It's just beautifully orchestrated.
I like the way you get like the guitar sort of like adding the atmosphere, because primarily like Johnny Cook's keyboards have been like added to the atmosphere. Then this song you get Randy Rhoads' guitar really added to the general sort of like spooky eerie mysticism vibe of the album.
Definitely is. Yeah. When he's saying Diary of a Man, when he's saying the song as well.
Ozzy's vocals too.
But then when this song doesn't remain like that, obviously it kicks in again with a more memorable guitar.
That is definitely true. Randy Rhoads' guitar lines very.
Like there's no missing anything with Randy Rhoads. He put a bit of everything in it.
It's very proficient and profound guitar player. Diary of a Madman. I think it is maybe like one of the most memorable songs on the album.
It's one of the strongest tracks on the album, definitely.
It's good to end.
It's definitely a good way to end it.
Because there's a lot of long songs on this album, clocking generally like 5 to 6 minutes in length.
7 minutes, isn't it?
You Can't Kill Rock and Roll.
You Can't Kill Rock and Roll.
Right, 6 minutes 59.
See, in some situations it might be 7. Maybe on YouTube.
I think it's on that time, Pink Floyd said it's like 7 minutes. It's not. It's like 6 minutes. So if I listen to Breaking in the Sky, and like Ozzy's vocals, they're like the speak of desperation in many ways. This song could be like it's written from like a personal perspective, dude. I think about like Ozzy's life, or it could be like.
Oh, it's like a brilliant track to like utilise Ozzy Osbourne as a person. And
it basically like sums up like all the elements of the sound, dude. Like, and so it's very ballady, where like the hard rock tendencies.
I don't think it would have fitted anywhere else. I don't think.
Probably at the end.
It suits it well because it's kicked off with like this heaviness, and then it's like slowly like downgraded. Not as in music style, but like the tempo and stuff.
I like the diverse tone. I get like a mixture of like nice hard rocking songs. You also get like songs with a more ballady touch.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I think that Tonight's like the only song that is primarily focused on being like a ballad, because all the others like they really kick in once like the.
Even this one, even though like the guitar. Just like the guitar was like, I'm sure you got like overlayers of guitars on this.
Probably
like, more classical.
You were saying how like guitars. 3 guitar parts on some songs.
Oh, that was on Flying High Solo, I think. But this one's got like duo guitars, like some different like steel guitars, some classical guitars.
That is awesome. So I know you're saying how like Randy Rhoads like classically trained musician, and like I was saying everybody about like Ozzy's vocal speak of desperation. Like the songs, like I said, could like run from personal perspectives or a Russian dude named Nikolai Gogol's Diary of a Madman 1835 short story. Although you were saying this album's title, dude, was a reference to Diary of a Madman, something else. Vincent Price.
The 1963 film featuring Vincent Price. I'm sure that's what Kurz
classic
said.
Cult horror writer. House on Haunted Hill.
You might have seen him in the Simpsons episode Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Which was also a YouTube song.
Oh no, he's the guy on the phone because Lisa's got that like kit. That
and
magic
it's
kit.
missing that thing.
Oh, I don't know, like a hat or something? like
I'm not too sure, dude.
I can't remember.
The Simpsons, like, you know, you see all these things very true. We were discussing this the other day, how, like, a lot of the stuff that was written in cartoons, like, how the hell you get away with that when you're kids, you don't understand it and stuff.
Indeed. And so, I mean, this song's also got some violins, got some like, strings,
violin.
And it's also got some, like, chorus of vocals when it's going into the outro. Yeah, so it starts off with, like, just a chorus of vocals, but then, like, a female voice rises up from it. And it gives me the impression, like, I don't know, I just, like, you're close into a like, let's say you're on a train or something, you're, like, going into...
You're on a crazy train,
like, going into, like, a black hole, or you're going down to, like, this speed travelling of vocals and stuff.
Yeah. I just forgot about that. Those like, harmonising of vocals. It was like that's Pink Floyd song, like the female vocals in there too.
Like Great Big in the Sky.
Could be.
Oh wait, no, you want about like Brain Damage?
Yeah, Brain Damage. Well, let's say there's much more intense female vocals.
That was like 4 female. It was like 4 soul singers or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's just like 4. Although I couldn't find any additional credits for any female vocals, because like Ozzy just messing around. Cause see, it sounds like he like chips in with like the harmonising tip, it just doesn't work when his voice is too gruff. His voice is too Birmingham. Oh, Ozzy Osbourne.
So you like listen to him singing, and if you like you'd watch him in an interview, and you get that difference in.
It looks very synonymous on stage, but it speaks
like
a lot differently.
No, you've got like sometimes some squeaky sort of singing, but then you just got this brummy accent.
Apparently the day that apparently Ozzy has like an oxygen tank on stage just in case.
I think Eddie Vedder needs one of those because he fainted on stage before.
And he also needs like a lyric cling to remember the lyrics. I can't remember the lyrics for any of his songs.
I'm saying Eddie Vedder nearly fainted on stage. I saw someone post on Tumblr that they went to a Pearl Jam and they played 36 songs.
That is quite an extensive.
I mean, what about Bruce Springsteen? He was like 4 hours in one go.
Although Motorhead's Lemmy, he was having some trouble wanting to do. Like he was like he couldn't complete
his set.
Now. Apparently Lemmy's has cut the booze out, so you know all these people say, "Oh, rock and roll stars, they all drink." Yeah, they all have to cut out late.
No, they always have to end up cutting it out. Who was I saying earlier? Oh, the bassist from Red Fang saying he had to cut it out.
Yeah, he was telling me how was like there was a video of Red Fang, there was a beer everywhere. Imagine how I used to be like 2 years ago. I'm glad I stopped drinking. So benefits for life so much more. And
philosophical words from Jonny Middleton.
You've heard it here first. And yeah, like this is definitely a very like anthemic, epic, harmonised way to spend the album. Some like the whole mystical themes of the album in many ways. And yeah, as I was saying, this song's really about like Vincent Price and the whole horror shtick. There's the horror shtick from Black Sabbath is certainly prevalent in Ozzy's early work too, like with the artwork and the whole guitars from Rhodes and the keyboards.
Yeah.
From Johnny Cook.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's just about the track listings. So we'll give our general impressions actually. This is like
I like it.
It's basically overall an album that contains some like very, very catchy and profound guitar work from Randy Rhoads. A lot of emphasis was placed. A lot of people view Rhoads' guitar as like a big prominent of what makes this album so good, I suppose.
It's just like what I've said earlier. I mean, it's just like it's a great album for like Randy Rhoads.
Kick slides and harmonics.
Oh yeah, and it's good.
Wild, crazy guitar solos.
Yeah, I mean, it just raises questions of what could have been next.
That's
all I get from this album.
I'll say to you, dude, how one time like Tony Iommi was like a riffmaster, but I don't think he could play some wild and crazy solos like Randy Rhoads could.
It was Tony,
like more of a glam influence.
Tony Iommi is more of like he helped make something different, but like Randy
like,
took something and then like made it even more crazier.
I guess like it's summed up like Ozzy's like stoned, rock and roll mentality, I suppose.
It suits Ozzy's persona at the time.
That's probably the best way of phrasing it, actually, Don. It basically depicts like Ozzy with like sort of like a werewolf, and there's like a boy in the corner. That's actually his son. Sorry, dude. Werewolf. Sort of. It's very ripped clothing. You see like Ozzy's son from his first wife, Thelma, like Lewis, in the corner, so like looking menacing. It's like the whole room like a red chandelier, it's like a castle vibe, but it refers to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. And you see like an inverted cross the wall. It sort of like goes against like maybe just like a hats off to the critics, who label Sabbath as Satanism, like actually not bad. And then on the back you see Ozzy wearing his like white tassels from like the Sabbath era. Obviously it looks hell of a lot different on the front, because it's like
more
being
notably
ripped
seen
apart.
in the live Paranoid video, which most people have probably seen.
I agree, and also in like a playing tour of the States, I believe as well, dude. And you see the distance is Diary of a Madman. You see Ozzy jumping around his white tassels, probably celebrating the phenomenal picking of Randy Rhoads as a guitar player.
He does do a lot of jumping around. Ozzy Osbourne.
Not so much these days, but
no.
You also see like the Ozzy Osbourne, like the
bass. Continuous Ozzy Osbourne writing on the back. Which is different to the Pink Floyd one, which was like crediting people. Oh no, it wasn't.
We finally see a picture of Randy Rhoads
and
the lyrics. I know how much you've been raving about the new Mastodon album. Like,
I think we mentioned in the last video for all this. This is like rave about it all years. So
more lyrics.
We'll listen to it early. So, yeah. I say I'm just giving.
He really enjoys Once More Round the Sun.
Random talking in the background.
You get a picture of like Ozzy there.
Random Lego talk in the background.
More picture. Lego talking. I love our conversations. There's so many different tangents. More lyrics going on. You get pictures, posts of Ozzy and everything.
It saves you buying the CD. Don't download it illegally though.
Please buy the album and support the artist. And here we go, do's and dudettes. The moment we've all been waiting for, the moment that we love the most, where we pick out the album we'll be covering next week. And as Travis,
it could be good. It could be bad.
We'll never know until we pick it out of the hat. And let's Travis got to pick last week, so this week it's my turn once again. And
drum roll.
And so this time Travis to put his hand over my eyes if he wants to.
That's sure, why not?
Okay,
now just ruffle around in there.
Now I've got to explore this album, all these pieces.
Who's going to be next?
Oh my word,
we'll get to see new looks. You have to wait a week.
Oh my word, oh my word, oh my word, oh my word.
Remember to pick one.
This is going to be so awesome, dude.
It's going to be like a tossing
of a coin. I have one, dude.
Let's have a look. Oh yeah! What a great album!
My word, I was not expecting this one once again, but this is going to be interesting.
I guess that I was closer by years than you were.
This is going to be interesting. Like,
now we've got an album. I'll give them a little clue. This is an album from the 60s.
I have very little information on this album. This would be a great journey for me.
I love this album.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word.
Such an interesting album as well.
So I think that just about sums up our second review of this series, Do's and Deaths, where we covered Diary of a Madman by Oscar Osborne, which was the first album picked out of the hat. And we've just got the hands on the second album picked out of the hat. So until next time, I've been Jonny Middleton.
And I've been Travis Ward.
Stay safe, stay strong. We shall see you all in the future. Forever peace and much love. Y'all know it.